Hey guys, this is Sumner, aka the Land Pioneer, and I sell land on the internet. You've probably heard me say that so many times. And I don't know where you stumbled from, right? Maybe you came from Instagram, maybe you came from TikTok, maybe you came from the website. Wherever you came from, thank you for being here. And I hope that I can share some value in the next 25, 30 minutes. And essentially what we're going to do is go over just the nuts and bolts of the land business. And truly, you could take this training and start today or tomorrow, right? And you could really run with the principles here and get started. And this is essentially what I did when I first got into the business, right? I just learned by trial and fire. I just went out there and started lighting stuff on fire and seeing what worked. So I'm kind of, the hope here is that I can narrow it down, give you a framework that you can use to get started investing in land, because honestly, it's changed my life entirely. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always loved the idea of real estate. And so kind of colliding those two worlds together and building a business around it is incredibly exciting. And so I'm really passionate about this and really excited to share it with you. And before we dive in, give me a little bit of grace because I'm not tech savvy at all. As you'll see from this setup, I'm not a techie person. So we're going to run through a presentation together. And if it's not the cleanest, not the smoothest, I apologize. But the value, the actual information, it will far exceed my technical abilities. So without further ado, let's pop you into my screen and let's go take a look and teach you how to start your own land investing business. So here we go. We'll go over and we'll go into presentation mode. So the Land Pioneer, this is a company that I started at the very end of 2019, quarter four of 2019. I knew I wanted to get into real estate. I was writing handwritten letters, trying to buy houses, trying to wholesale houses, trying to flip houses, trying to find rentals. Truth be told, I didn't have enough money to get started, right? I got myself into some situations where I quickly realized, wow, if you don't have an excess of, tens of thousands of dollars, it's pretty hard to get your feet wet. It's pretty hard to get started in the world of real estate. But then I discovered land investing. So what you're going to learn in this video is why land investing is truly the best kept secret in the real estate world. No one talks about it. Land is kind of a forgotten asset. Truthfully, I don't even think most people really look at it as an asset, but it's an incredible asset. And I'm going to show you how you can get started investing in land today with very, very little money to get started. And this, kind of leads into the next point. This business is a business that doesn't need insane amounts of capital to get started. I think you could start with $5,000, maybe $10,000 is the ideal spot. But even if you're on the lower end of the spectrum, you can still get started. And I'll show you some scrappy ways to start finding deals. And I'm going to show you how to build a six-figure business in the next 180 days. If you're seriously dedicated, you can do it. I did it. You can do it as well. So let's dive in. First off, who is the Land Pioneer? Well, let me tell you. My name is Sumner Healey. I'm the founder and CEO of the Land Pioneer. You can see my little blurb there. Essentially the high level overview is I love business, right? I love solving problems. I love creating value. I love that exchange of value. I love the game of building something from scratch. It's just my passion, right? Some people like building houses from scratch. I like building businesses from scratch. I've run many different businesses, whether it's, drop shipping, it's FBA, it's private label, it's high ticket coaching. I've done it all. And in my short 25 years, or I haven't done it all, but I've done a good bit here, right? And I always knew throughout my progression that I wanted to get started in real estate. And that was always the goal that I was aiming towards, like build a business, generate cash flow, and then go put that into real estate. So this is kind of what I've done, just in a bit of a different way. I also have a co-founder. His name's Dan Madison. He's not on this call, but I'm sure at some point you guys will meet him. He is a sales wizard and an operational wizard, right? So he's the COO. He runs all the day-to-day operations. He's the one that actually makes sure that the crazy ideas that I put forth get completed, that we actually make progress on them. He's an amazing guy. And so him and I have partnered up and we're rocking and rolling together. So how did it start, right? Well, it started back, like I said, in the end of 2019. I believe it was August when I first started getting the idea to get started. Didn't have a ton of money, right? Started with about $7,000 that I said, hey, I can reasonably allocate this towards this new adventure, but I'm not going to spend any money outside of that. So that was kind of my starting nest egg that I committed. I ended up doing a little over 65 deals in my first 12 months. I did this all while working a corporate job. So I worked in like tech sales, was doing a mix of outbound and inbound sales. I was able to quit my corporate job in less than 10 months, which is a blessing, right? There was nothing wrong with my job, but anyone that's working at W-2 currently, you know what it's like to kind of have the ball and chain of a W-2. And so having the freedom has been life-changing, right? Truthfully, when I got started there, I didn't take any training. I didn't have any courses. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone to hold my hand. And so it was weekly, sometimes daily, that things were just blowing up in my face, right? But the truth of it all is I kept on just pushing forward. It was just incremental progress, right? It was like you either get bitter or you get better. You get knocked down, are you going to be mad about it? Or are you going to go and say, hey, let me actually figure out how to make this better and take another step forward, another step forward. And that was what allowed me to do so many deals in my first 12 months. And it's what allowed me to leave my job. And I think ultimately, when you're getting started, understanding your why, right? And my why was I want to leave my job. I want to create a better life for my family. And I want to do something that's fun, something that I'm passionate about. And if you can't tell, I love land. I'm passionate about it. And I recommend anyone that's getting started in this game, you got to have passion. Whatever your adventure is in life, whatever you choose to spend your time with, I just hope from the bottom of my heart that you love it, that you're passionate about it. So how's it going, right? 2021, we're on track to do a little over 150 properties sold. We'll probably buy a lot more than that, but that's actually sold properties in 2021. Brought on 2 team members. Actually, in the first month, in January 2021, I left my job at the end of December. January 2021, that month alone, I made more money than I made in my entire 12 months prior for my W-2 income. And I was scared out of my mind to leave my job. But I replaced that income in 1 month. And it's just incredible to see what you can accomplish in this business. I get to work in a business that I'm passionate about. And again, this is critical for anyone that's getting started in a new adventure, whether it's land investing or some other kind of entrepreneurial endeavor. Passion is the fuel. That is your engine. And I've ultimately been able to develop a lifestyle and a schedule that gives me freedom, right? If I want to go surfing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, I can do so. I'm going to show you guys exactly how to set up systems within this business to do the same thing. So land versus the world. Why am I so obsessed with land? Well, realistically, if you're in the real estate space, you know that everyone's hot to trot on wholesaling. They're hot to trot on subject to, flipping a house or the BRRRR strategy. And these are great, viable solutions, right? There is merit to those models. But my thought is when everyone's going in one direction, it's probably wise to look at going in the other direction. So that's why I suggest you start in land. It's a blue ocean. It's an open world with unlimited possibilities. There is darn near no competition in this space of land investing. And that means there's just a lot of low-hanging fruit, right? And it's my thought that, hey, we can either grab the low-hanging fruit or we can struggle to get the apple that's sitting at the very top of the tree. But be careful because there's snakes in the tree, right? There's going to be a lot of pain just to get that apple at the top. I prefer to go after the low-hanging fruit. And that to me is land investing. So the ROI of land is pretty unbelievable, right? Let's say you're a house flipper. It's a great flip if you make 10 to 20 points on your flip, right? That's your return on the cash that you actually put in. A wholesaler might make a $12,000 assignment fee. They had $4,000 in marketing to lock up that deal. They've got the cost of actually having cold callers or a VA or some kind of assistant that's going to help with that transaction, because truthfully, there's a lot of moving parts in assigning or wholesaling a house. The typical land flip, it's not uncommon to see 100%, 800%, 1,000%. I've had some deals where it's 1,700% return, and that's fully weighted. That's looking at all marketing costs. That's looking at everything that's going into acquiring the deal, and that's actually looking at the net profit that you got at the very back end. So the returns are just unbelievable in the world of land. So how is this possible, right? Well, first off, land is incredibly illiquid. I dare you, go on Zillow, go on Redfin, look at how long most pieces of land sit on there, right? Land is, most cases, going to sit on the market for months, years. I've seen pieces of land that have been listed for damn near a decade. And land is incredibly difficult to actually comp out, right? There's not many sold comps out there for land. And so it's very tricky to say, well, hey, this piece of land is worth $20,000 because there's 15 other comps on the same block that sold for $20,000. Now, when it comes to houses, there's tons of comps, right? You could say, my house is worth this much because my neighbor's house sold for this and the house down the street sold for this. And you can reasonably say that this is what my house is worth. Part of the huge spreads that you can eke out in land is due to the overall inefficiency of the market, right? An inefficient market breeds opportunity. And in a lot of cases, when you're actually going direct to owner, the land doesn't mean much to them, right? There's very little intrinsic value. They might live in Texas, they own land in California, they pay property taxes on it, they might pay an HOA fee annually. To them, it's more of a liability than an asset, right? They might have had dreams of developing it 20 years ago, and that ship has sailed. And so for them to be able to liquidate an illiquid asset and do it at a price that's reasonable to them, that's usually a deal that most people are willing to take. It's very similar to going to a garage sale, right? Someone might have bought a Peloton, well, maybe not a Peloton. Let's say they bought like a treadmill and they had these big dreams of getting in shape 5 years ago. Now the treadmill is just collecting dust. They might have bought it for $1,000. It's not crazy to think that you could go and offer them $100 cash right there, and they're going to seriously consider that offer. And land is very similar in that sense. The other thing is that marketing for land is incredibly outdated. If you start looking at these land listings, you'll quickly realize that most people don't know how to sell land, right? They don't know what potential buyers are looking for. They don't know how to market to those buyers. And so there's almost no competition when it comes to actually marketing these properties. And that's one of the biggest edges that you can have, right? It's just good marketing. You could almost buy a property retail and list it slightly higher with better marketing and be able to eke out a yield. But imagine if you could buy it at a discount, pair that up with good marketing. Now you can sell it at a massive multiple compared to what you initially bought it for. All this to be said, land investing is like a business. It's simple, right? The nuts and bolts of it is very, very simple. But like anything that's simple, it's rarely actually easy. Trust me when I say you will have challenges in your land investing journey, but that's okay. That's to be expected. Nothing in life worth having is easy, right? So let me go through a couple recent deal breakdowns. I think case studies are one of the best ways to get people excited. It's the best way to add context. And so we'll go over a couple of deals from the last 3 months, just to kind of give you an idea of what this business model looks like. So here's a deal that I did out in Texas. I bought this property for $19,000, give or take a little bit. And that's fully weighted, right? I contracted it at $18,000. I went through a title company, so there's additional expenses. That's the fully weighted closing cost that I had to pay to get into the deal. Within 60 days, I sold it for $55,000. I did list it with a realtor, so he got $5,000. I made 50. And so, the rest was just a simple subtraction, and you can see what my profit was there. This deal came from direct mail. So I sent out a direct mail offer letter. Funnily enough, I was actually making an offer on a different piece of land. They said, hey, we don't want to sell that one, but we've got this property that we desperately want to get rid of, lakefront property. They had actually bought this property for darn near $80,000 back in like 2007, at the height of the market, and they just wanted to be done with the thing. All in all, this took about 60 days from closing on both sides, right? So got it listed, it sat for a little bit, got a couple offers, finally got a real offer, took it through title, net, it was about 60 days for the full turnaround on this deal. This is a great deal. And this is a deal where the ROI isn't ginormous, but you're dealing with bigger dollar amounts. And so these are the deals that I like to focus on now, right? It's not necessarily going for the biggest ROI. It's just saying, hey, I'm going to make a quick 30 grand in 60 days. I'll do deals like that all day long. And there's very little competition out there for people buying properties like this. Here's a more of like a beginner deal. This was out in California in San Bernardino County. I bought this for $5,000. Sold it for $18,000 in 5 days. pretty unbelievable. And this came from direct mail. Funnily enough, the seller actually lived in the same town as me. I live in San Diego. So we met up in person, signed the deed over, and got it sold within 5 days. Here's another one. This is in the same area out in San Bernardino County. Bought it for $650, sold it for $7,000 in 10 days. Same lead source, direct mail. You'll see this as a constant. Really, my business model is built around direct mail. Here's one that I bought for $650 up in Kern County. Sold it for $1,800. That took 30 days. It's in California City, which is very, very desolate. So an extremely illiquid market in a lot of instances. So 30 days for a pretty good spread. I'll take that. And this was actually purchased from a portfolio. This lady owned a handful of properties, and I just made a bulk offer. So I sent her one direct mail piece for one of her properties. She said, "Hey, I own 4 other lots." I bought all 4 of them and sold all of them within like 45 days. This one was one of the slower ones. So let's put it all together, right? It's cool to see my case studies. It's cool to hear my background. But what's more exciting is figuring out, well, how can you do this? So let me give you the overall rundown, the play-by-play on how this business works. It all starts with market research, right? Where do you want to buy land? And markets will range wildly. There's over 3,000 counties in the United States. That's a lot of different places to choose from. Some are great, some are probably terrible to buy land in, right? There's areas where I've purchased land and my marketing efforts just didn't go as far as other counties, where other counties had a lot more motivated sellers. They had a lot more buyers. And so it's up to you to do the due diligence and actually figure out, where do you want to invest in land? And this is going to be kind of a make it or break it decision, especially if you're starting with a small amount of money, because you want to make sure that your marketing dollars really yield the best results. And it all starts by doing market research. One of the things that you want to figure out as well is, why do you want to buy land here, right? It might be because, hey, the statistics look really good. Properties are selling fast out here. The data is really good. There's a lot of people that I can market to. There's a lot of owners out here. But there might be an additional reason, right? You might have some insider information. I think most people would be surprised at the information they have. Maybe it's the county that you live in, and you just know a lot about that market, or you've got a friend that's a realtor that can help list the properties. So figure out what your unique edge is, right? For me, over the last year and a half, I've narrowed in on certain markets that I like to work in just because I'm very familiar with them. And I built up a big buyers list there. So I think the goal is to hunker down and really get familiar with just a couple different markets and just work those. You also want to figure out what kind of land do you want to buy. Believe it or not, there's a lot of different land types out there, right? You might have like an infill lot, which is your standard development lot that's going to be in like a residential setting. You might have a couple houses next to it, and there's just that one random vacant lot. Maybe you want to go on the outskirts of a metropolitan area and you want to buy big unrestricted tracts of land. Or maybe you want to buy pieces of land that are, in an HOA, or you want to buy land that you want to subdivide. And so figuring out what kind of land you want to specialize in is going to be really important while you're doing that market research. The next thing you need to do is you've picked a county. Now it's time to start actually pulling the ownership data. You want to aggregate the data of the owners so you can market to them. When I first started, it was actually going to the county, calling them up and saying, hey, I want to get a list of the people that are tax delinquent. I want to find property owners that are late on their taxes, because inherently they seem like they're the most motivated group of people, right? They're not paying their taxes. They probably don't care about the land. This is an okay marketing strategy, but as you'll probably find, a lot of these people are hard to reach. They might have passed away. And so this is not a list that I focus on exclusively now, but I still do work with tax delinquent lists. Alternatively, you can use like a data aggregation website like DataTree. It's my personal favorite. You can use PropStream, ListSource, CoreLogic. There's all sorts of solutions out there. And these are paid, right? You will have to get a membership and you will have to pay for the data, but this is a measly cost in terms of the results that it will yield for you. And so you'll go to one of these platforms, you'll put in your criteria. Hey, I want vacant land in San Bernardino County. I want to focus on properties that are 5 to 50 acres. and I want them to be exclusively zoned for residential or commercial or whatever it may be for you. So you can apply those filters and actually pull that data, and it'll just download as a CSV file, and it'll have their contact information, their address, and this is when we begin the marketing process. So you'll export your data, you'll organize the important merge fields for mailing your letters, and then at this point, you want to actually add an offer price. And what's really unique about what we do is we don't just send a letter. We send a letter with a specific offer price. Hey, Mr. Seller, I want to pay you $7,000 for your property, opposed to saying, hey, Mr. Seller, I want to buy your property. We want to cut through the noise, give them an offer price so they can say, yes, Sumner, I do want to sell this property for $7,000. It removes the negotiation. It removes the tire kickers. Yes, we get a smaller number of people reaching out to us, but those that do reach out to us are motivated, right? They know the terms, they know the conditions. And so it's really important to give them an offer price. The way you come up with this offer price, unfortunately, it's less of a science and more of an art, right? You have to understand a couple different factors. One, what are comps out there, if there are any? What is property selling for reasonably? And so you can kind of build out an average off of that. And then you need to start toying with what you can reasonably offer them, right? So if properties are selling for $100,000, is anyone going to accept an offer for 10? No, maybe 1 out of 10,000 people will, but you're going to have to send a lot of mail. But if you send an offer for 40,000, hey, maybe a couple people take that offer. And there's still a big spread in between. Realistically, I wouldn't even list that property at 100,000. I think part of our goal here is to list the property at an incredibly competitive price. So let's say you buy it for 40, you go list it for 80. This is an amazing way to make $40,000 off of one deal. And you can do dozens or hundreds or maybe even thousands of these on a yearly basis. So you'll build in your offer price, then you'll send it off to a mail company. There's hundreds to choose from. Just find one that you like, find one that's got a competitive price. I think paying, 45 to 55 cents per letter is about the industry standard. So you'll mail out the letters and it'll take some time for them to reach the owners. 2 to 3 weeks is pretty typical. You don't want to just be waiting, right? At this point, you want to ensure that you are actually further understanding the market. You want to get a better read on the market. So keep on looking at that area daily. See what kind of listings are selling. See what kind of properties are getting traction. Which ones have the most views? Which ones have the most saves? Because you want to start figuring out what kind of marketing is working and replicate that marketing in your listings. So this is the point where you can start assembling your marketing plan. So the second you get a property that's closed, you know what kind of pictures to take. You know what kind of listing to write up. You know what platforms to sell it on. And so this is a critical piece in the equation is you need to have great marketing. And that research starts right when you send the mail out, right? Start researching on your marketing plan. Each area that I work in is essentially a new process of building out a new business plan for that area. Because in some areas, Facebook Marketplace is going to be the best platform to sell on. In other markets, maybe it's Zillow or maybe it's listing with a realtor. And so you need to figure out what's actually getting the most traction. Now is the time to put on your customer service hat. So the calls are going to start coming in, right? It's been 2 to 3 weeks. The phone will start lighting up. Some of these people aren't going to be happy. And that's kind of how it goes. Some people are going to tell you to F off. Some people are going to say, wow, this is a sign from God. I really wanted to take a vacation. I want to get rid of this land. Thank you so much. And what's interesting is these calls will come in odd waves. Some days you might get 30, 40 calls in a day. Other days you'll get 0. It's critical that you're always available, right? You always want to answer the calls. And at a certain point, you could delegate this, but when you're starting, you need to make yourself available. You will lose deals constantly if you don't pick up the phone. And when you pick up the phone, you have to pick up the phone as someone that's got a customer service hat. You are solving a problem for that seller. And if you're not solving a problem for them, they're not going to want to do business with you. So be prepared to work through their issues, work through their problems, listen to them, and pick up every dang call, because that's how you get amazing deals. Customer service is one of the most underrated aspects of any business. And it's one of the easiest ways to drive massive results just by instilling, better customer service, whether it's for you or for someone that you bring on as a hire. We live in a day and age of instant information, right? We've got Amazon at our fingertips. You could go order something and have it sent to you the same day. For example, I ordered this laptop that I'm using to film this on Tuesday, and it came to me on Wednesday morning. This is kind of the bar that we're playing with. This is the expectation. So if a seller calls you and you call them back 4 days later, you've already lost the deal, right? You need to be quick on the draw. Now, when these properties come in and people say, hey, I want to accept your offer, now it's time to do deeper due diligence on that property. You need a margin of safety with all of your deals, and this is going to be built through proper and extensive due diligence, understanding the chain of title, understanding, hey, are there any comps that are within like a mile radius or a 5-mile radius? Does your offer make sense? Are the properties that are listed in that area actually selling, or people are just listing at astronomical prices? You need to be really realistic with how you do your due diligence and how you comp out these properties, because you don't want to get yourself into a bad deal, whether it's from having title issues or it's from having mispriced that initial offer. It's okay to go back and say, hey, I need to actually renegotiate this offer because I made a mistake. But just ensure that you actually do the due diligence up front before you buy the piece of land. It's critical that you never marry a deal. And it's so easy to do so, right? I still find myself looking at the numbers and saying, oh my God, I could make so much on this property, because I see a few people that have listed it at astronomical prices, and I've got it under contract for 1/10 of that. But are those properties selling, right? Let's be really objective with how we view these matters. Because it's critical to not get like this romantic feeling about a deal and thinking that you can make something ginormous. You need to be incredibly objective, look at those sold comps and understand, is this actually a deal, or am I trying to force a deal out of something which is not a deal? Now it's time to close the deal, right? You've done your due diligence, everything pans out, you've got your marketing plan assembled, the seller is ready to go. You've got two choices here. Do you want to run it through a title company, or do you want to do a notary close? Now, in my business, if it goes through a title company, I tell the seller, hey, I will cover all of those closing costs. It's kind of one of the value adds that I bake in. You don't have to do this, but I do encourage it. When you run it through a title company, depending on the state, you could expect anywhere from $600 to $2,000 an additional expense. And you need to bake that into your due diligence to understand, hey, if I have this additional expense, can I still make a yield that's reasonable out of this deal? On the flip side, you have a notary close. That's where you send a notary to the seller, they notarize the deed and sign it over into your name, and then you get that recorded with the county. If you're going to go that route, understand that you need to do incredible due diligence on the chain of title. You need to ensure that there's no errors in that chain of title, because you don't want to go sell this property to someone that's got a broken title. I recommend when you're first getting started, go through a title company, right? You'll get title insurance. They'll walk you through the closing process. They'll act as a third party so you don't make mistakes with the seller. It'll add a layer of trust for the seller. I think it's a good place to start. But as you graduate from that and you get more comfortable, you can start saving that expense and going the route of a notary close. All in, fully weighted on a notary close, I'll typically spend about $100. So the savings are immense, but you just want to make sure that you feel comfortable doing it. Timeline. This is important. Title, it's going to range again by the state, but it's not uncommon to have a closing take 3 to 4 weeks. I've had some that take 3 months because the title company is so slow. One thing that you realize is that the title industry is one of the most antiquated businesses out there. Talk about a lack of customer service. Most of them absolutely stink. And I'm sorry for any of my people that work in a title company that are watching this, but I think most of these people are just overworked. They're too busy. There's not enough staff. And so you're going to be looking at, realistically, I would say a 2 to 4 week turnaround for most closings. A notary close, you can be looking at 2 to 5 days. These can happen really, really fast, which allows you to turn that money faster because you can get the property listed, you could sell it sooner. So there's a lot of advantages to a notary close. One thing to put out there, though, is once the property exceeds a certain price point, for what you're going to actually be acquiring it for, whether it's $5,000 or $10,000. You can make that call yourself. But for me, at a certain threshold, irregardless of anything else, I'm going to run it through a title company, just because if there's a lot of money on the line, I want the title insurance. I want to utilize escrow. And so there are advantages in certain situations where a title company is going to be the best bet. Now it's time to market the property, right? When you're first getting started, I recommend go use the free platforms, right? There's Zillow, there's Facebook, there's Craigslist. There's a lot of different solutions that you can use out there that are totally free. Go put the property up there, right? There are paid platforms that do generate good leads, but I would say start there, and you'll get a ton of leads. Now, most of them are going to be tire kickers. That's kind of the name of the game. You're going to get a lot of people that like the idea of owning land, but they're just not ready to actually pull the trigger. My game plan is anyone that has some level of seriousness to them, anyone that has a decent conversation through Facebook or through Zillow or through email, I want to get them onto the phone as quickly as possible to close that deal. Deals get closed on the phone. There's just trust that can be built through the phone. You can answer their questions through the phone. You can provide context through the phone, where you can't do that through most digital communications. And it's critical that you sell with passion, right? This is your baby. This is a piece of land that you probably have some admiration for. You might know a lot about this piece of land. I hope you do at this point. Sell that to them, explain it to them, paint the vision of what they can do with the land. You want to sell a story, and that's critical. And in order to sell a story, you got to be passionate about what you're selling. Now it's time to rinse and repeat. You pretty much just went through a full deal cycle, right? So imagine doing that with 10, 20, 30, 40 properties every single month. It sounds hectic. It might be a lot to take on your own, but this is an incredibly scalable model, right? You get the right people in the right seats, and you could really grow this business where you're doing a deal a day or a couple deals a day or a couple deals a week, whatever you're looking for. This could be a lifestyle business, or this could be a full-fledged, multi-seven-figure operation. Moral of the story, though, is marketing and deal flow are going to be critical. No matter how big or how small you want this business to be, always be marketing, always be closing deals, always be listing. This is an incredibly transactional business, which is good and bad. But in a transactional business, there's really two key pillars. You've got marketing, which is reaching out to owners, and you've got the sales side, which is selling the properties. That's really the nuts and bolts of this business. It's just marketing and sales. There's no IP or proprietary information or proprietary solutions that you're building. You're just arbitraging the difference in a piece of land by having better marketing and sales systems. Ultimately, though, I want to just tell you guys that anyone can do this, right? Anyone could start in this business, but you've got to commit. You've got to commit to yourself. You've got to commit to wanting a better life. You've got to commit to your why and understanding what your why is. Why would you even want to start this business? Why would you even want to get involved? Get clear with that and commit to it, and everything else in this business will become easy, right? Because there's going to be problems. I guarantee you. I deal with them daily. But if you commit to that better life, if you commit to a better you, it's all worth it. And going through the trials and the errors, it becomes a lot easier to manage when you've made that commitment to improve yourself, to improve your life. And so ultimately, I hope you guys have enjoyed this short presentation. I hope I provided some value. I would love to answer any additional questions that you guys have. I love this stuff, whether it's talking about land or you want to talk about other businesses or just good old real estate investing in general. Let's chat, right? So I'm happy to jump on a quick call. I am offering one-on-one coaching. So if you want to get on a call and see what that looks like, I would be happy to do so. Or maybe you just want to shoot the breeze with me. You just want to ask me some questions. My email is down below, sumner@thelandpioneer.com. Shoot me over an email. I'm always available. So yeah, guys, hope you got value out of this. And I really look forward to helping you along your journey in investing in land. Take care.
but this,
What's up, Lou?
I don't like this area at all.
Not nice.
It's disgusting.
Ah, well then, yeah, I don't like that.
It's literally like grosser than you could imagine it being.
Are you by the house right now?
Yeah, I'm like in the neighborhood, and I'm like, actually, we're not gonna go. It's really disgusting. Like it's like Asian meets ghetto.
Yeah, I'm not about that.
No, it's pretty gross.
So what's the play then, Lou?
I don't know. I don't have a client till 12, so
I mean, are you gonna still look at the house?
no.
You text her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, just come home then.
I just feel like if I come home, then I just have to leave right when I get home.
Oh, spooky.
Do you want to meet me somewhere for coffee?